Hi, my name is Ocean Gross, and I have helped set up call centers. And my promise to you is that this is going to be the most in-depth video that you can ever watch on specifically how to set up and monetize a call center if you actually want to market it, grow, and scale your business. And so the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to actually walk you through the entire steps, and then at the end I'm actually going to show you a flow chart of what it looks like, and then I'll explain the metrics that you pay attention to if you're using an AI call center or if you're using a human call center. So those are the two ways to do it. The reason that I'm making this video is because there's a lot of people out there who will actually try to sell you a call center for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's how they make their money. That's not how I'm making my money. I'm actually just doing this for myself, and this is just for you to provide value to you guys. And so this is who it is. So all right, who are you? Like, who is this? Would this work for? And then why would you want one? This can work for the industries that I've seen it work for: roofing, solar. It can work for medical, like selling insurance, that kind of thing. Anything that you would sell to a homeowner, so like home services, or anything that you could do in business to business. So let's say that you were selling consulting services specifically for roofing companies, then what you could do is you could call a bunch of roofing companies and then offer them, hey, would you like XM consulting services? And then you sell them the appointment, which I'll get into later. It can work if you have a large total addressable market and you're trying to call people. This is who that's for. You can go up or down with the agent. So you could go really low quality, just go for a bunch of volume if you're selling something to homeowners. If you're selling to something to like CEOs, you should probably have a human behind it. That way they can have high level conversations right off the rip. So cool. Now that we're there, this is also if you're using Google or Meta ads, it's really good for that. So if you're already having success with those ads and you're finding, hey, for every $1,000 that I spend on Facebook or Google ads, I'm getting one close. Good industry, because this can generally bring that down. Not always, but some of the times that's the case. And this is for high ticket things. So generally, if your thing is more expensive, it is easier to sell this. You know, insurance, for example, could be anywhere from $100 to $500 per month per person, right? So you make one call, you can make $100. That's kind of high volume. It could also work for something like, you know, if you're selling gym memberships. But if you're selling something that is $10,000 plus, it's really easy to sell because it's very appointment based, and then you can just do a large amount of volume for that. So that's usually if you want to spend less on Facebook ads. I've seen people cut their customer acquisition costs, so instead of spending that $1,000 per customer, they'd spend like $500 per customer. There's an example. There was one person that we were working with in one of the most competitive markets in the US, and she had a call center that week one, she'd never done this before, week one closed 9 extra roofs in 1 week. And was like, you know, I think average ticket price was like $12,000 per her roof in her industry. So, you know, 9 closes, average that out, that's like almost over $100,000. That's actually just, yeah. So it's a lot of money that you can make with these things, and very quickly too. And she had like 5 agents to start off with. So in a relatively small amount too. So what is this used for? It's mostly for marketing and sales, right? So like if you want to market and sell your business, if you're an appointment-based business, it works really well for you. So let's get into that. So first off, how do you find people to call? So who do you call? You can go to Upwork, you can go to Fiverr and download a list if you're in business to business, or if you're like me, there's tons of people out there who will sell really, really expensive lead lists. And they'll say like, oh, it's like 5 cents per contact or 25 cents per contact. That's really expensive, especially since the average call center, if you have 5 people, you need at least 50,000 contacts per month to be able to call, because this thing will call all those people in month 1. And so you want to make sure that that number is as low as possible. So that's how you find who to call. I like to go to a website called Deal Machine, is actually the name of the company. Deal Machine, because Deal Machine is a real estate company, and they just happen to also have a bunch of data that you can download. It's $100,000 for $500 worth. You pay $500 and then you get 100,000 contacts, which is a really good ratio, way cheaper than anyone trying to sell you one person for one contact, which is just like name, phone number, email, for super expensive, not worth it. So that's why I like Deal Machine. That's how you find who to call. And then what I'll do is I'll go into Deal Machine, and then I'll select specifically homeowners, owner occupied, above 2,500 square feet roughly. That's how I'll find those people to call. And then the way that you avoid calling people who are on the blacklist, as an example, I'll get into that later. So that's how you find who to call. And then if you're in a business, you just would upload them. I'll show you in the flow chart later. That's how you do that. How do you call them? So when you call them, there's specific times that you need to be able to call. And then how do you call the people who are not going to sue you? As an example, I have a friend of mine who has a call center. He does $10 million a year, actually pretty much exclusively from a call center. So he just has call centers, which is really cool. And his entire sales team is remote. So that's an advantage to using a call center. He uses something called the Blacklist Alliance. He suggested it to me. Terrible sales process, by the way. Absolutely hated it. But their product is really good. And so what you can do is you can take the list that you downloaded from Deal Machine, and then you can upload it into the Blacklist Alliance, and then it'll take out all the people who actively sue people for a living. That's an actual thing. You people will just randomly sue you for a living. And these are people who will sue you over very unreasonable things. As an example, I think one of the rules in one of the states is you can't call people after 9 p.m. Like they'll try to wait until you call them at like 9:01 and they'll sue you, right? Like it's kind of ridiculous. So going through Blacklist Alliance will kind of prevent litigation. And he does that, right? No one's perfect, especially if you're making millions of dials every single month. It's kind of hard to do that. Cool. So that is how to find people, how to get the software. Another way that you could do that is like Apollo.io if you want to find business to business customers. You talked about legal protection. The calling software. So what exactly, once again, how do you call? The software that I use, there's two of them that you can use. One of them is Vici Dial. So that is open source. It's technically free to use, but you have to pay for a server to host it. So that just means that it's a little bit easier to scale up. And it's like $100 per month for a server, to rent a server. You can just literally search up on Google like Vici Dial online server hosting, and then you can buy it that way. Super cheap. Don't get anyone to pay you like a ton of money. There's one other option. Now, Vici Dial is less user-friendly, but it's super good. Has a lot of metrics, and I like that it's open source. That's kind of a cool thing. Ready Mode is the second one. They're super expensive. They're like $150 per person per month. So if you have a 5-agent call center, just 150 times 5 adds up real fast. You're almost paying thousands of dollars. Can you negotiate on them with price? Absolutely, I'm sure you could, especially if you're driving volume. Ready Mode is actually a little more user-friendly, and really they provide you with phone numbers, or you can buy them from Twilio.com and then just connect them yourself. I prefer Twilio because it gives you a little more control. And so as an example, there's a bit of a learning curve with these softwares. Specifically, Vici Dial is a little bit more confusing and you have to spend more time learning the platform, but I think that it has some good metrics for you. But I think really if you have the cash to be able to spend, Ready Mode is really what you should be buying, especially if you have a smaller sales team in itself. So phone numbers, things to keep in mind. Phone numbers are pretty cheap. I think they're like 30 cents per phone number per month. So you want to call on phone numbers no more than 50 times per day. And so if you're making 1,000 calls a day, you're going to need, divide that by 50, you're gonna need that many phone numbers. So if I'm making 100 calls in total per day, then I'm going to need at least 2 phone numbers. So I'm making 1,000, I'm gonna need 20 phone numbers, right? That's how you math that out. If you're having 3 agents, each agent should be responsible for somewhere around or at least 1,000 calls per day. You can vary up and down depending on how much talk time they have per day. That's a different conversation. I won't get into that yet. So you can buy them off of Twilio, and then you can connect them to either Vici Dial, or you can connect them to Ready Mode, the software. So that's the platform that you make them. That's how you find the people. Then you just start dialing them. As an example, you should also try to find ways to increase your pickup rates, because if you increase your pickup rates, then you're gonna have more conversations. If you have more conversations, more people are gonna be able to buy from you. You wanna find numbers that are local to that area. So if you're in this area, find phone numbers in this area. That's how you're going to be able to get more numbers. Cool, so now you have the numbers, you have the ability to call. Who will call them? We can also get into AI later, but who's going to call them? Agents. You can hire agents from anywhere from $7 to $9 per hour with incentives like $20 per book call. I like to go to South America, the Philippines. Those are both 2 options. If you go to the Philippines, you're generally going to pay a little bit less, but their accent can be a little more thicker sometimes, not every time. Generally, and don't be afraid to pay for a really good agent. A really good agent will pay for themselves. The delta between the top 10% agents and like the rest of them was like 5x better. And so we'd have guys, for us specifically, our KPI was you have to be producing at least 1 valid appointment per an agent per day. So if you have 3 agents, that should be at least 6 appointments per day in roofing. Now in solar, that was like half as much because it was much harder to sell. So that's an example of how we would kind of evaluate what this makes sense to do. That maths out to about anywhere from like $100 to $200 per an appointment. You can actually cut that in half if you do it with AI. We've gotten into under $100 per an appointment consistently. Very difficult, but yes, it is possible. And so that's usually how much you'd pay for an appointment. So instead of paying Facebook or Google that much per appointment, you just pay this, and it's a little more stable, but it is a little more complex. So you're having some operational complexity there. To find a really good person though, you'd have to interview like 100 people. To find a mediocre person, you interview like 10 people. It's not hard to get an appointment. I think for one interview, it's maybe about $10 or something per an interview. So there's definitely a lot of volume that you'd have to go through, but the top 10% would end up setting like 5 to 10 appointments per day. And so you'd have some really good people who could just set a bunch of really good, really valid appointments, and those are the people who you'd want to go for. So now when you actually call them, now that you have the ability to call them, you have the ability to find someone to reach, you have the phone numbers to call them, and you have the software to be able to do it. Next is, what do you actually offer them? And now you have the people to offer them as well, so you have the people. What exactly are you offering? Most businesses are actually in the finance industry and they don't necessarily understand that. So if you understand that you can finance for your clients, you can make a really sexy offer. And so your offer has to be really good. It has to be better than whatever anyone else is coming to. Are you gonna beat them on speed, price, whatever it may be? Usually the easiest thing to call them with, and I won't give you my script, but I'll tell you roughly what we call them with. Hey, are you interested in a free roof replacement? Because if they have insurance, now, is every person going to qualify for a free roof replacement by their insurance? No, but the people who are able to, you can advertise that, right? As an example, Renew by Andersen, one of the biggest window companies, no affiliation in the US, they sell really expensive windows and they finance it on their ads. They send you, they say, hey, would you like to finance a new window purchase? You can get 0 payments for 12 months. So really what business they're in is like buy now, pay later. And for your cash flow yourself, I like to finance things and get paid today. So it's an easier thing to sell. They can buy now. I get paid today so that I can actually scale the business more instead of waiting 30 to 90 days to get my money back. I can scale a lot sooner. So, and it's a lot easier to call someone and say, hey, would you like a free roof replacement? That's an option. We're doing roof replacement in your area. Would you like something like that? If you're health insurance, you can sell, hey, would you know anyone who needs insurance? Would you like to save money on your insurance? That's the thing that you could sell. Your offer actually has to be good, and it has to be said in the first line. And then you're not actually selling the thing on the call, you're just selling the appointment to get a real sales rep in the door, whether you're doing in-person sales and you get someone to go there, give a quote in person, you're not actually selling the thing. Like, don't sell the thing on the phone, just sell the next step in the process. That's it. So in total, for about 5 agents, you're gonna need 50,000 leads in total to call. So that's about $250 in leads on average for one call center to be able to scale it up. And then I give you some of the metrics on how many appointments per agent per day. Roughly, what they should be producing is per an hour of talk time. So in Ready Mode and Vici Dial, you can both look and see how many hours per day has this person been on the phone. And you wanna make sure that's how I manage people. I go through and look, and we'll actually obviously have managers in place that handle this, but they look at how much time is their actually talk time is the most important thing, and you want that to be as high as possible. Ideally over 2 hours. 2 hours is like super low, something's going wrong. They can spend like an hour a day training. Obviously there's breaks, there's lunch, all that kind of stuff. That's if you're doing human. With AI, it's actually a little bit easier. Shocker. So that's how to do that. Ideally, the more talk time that you can have, the better. Someone should be producing at least bare minimum, half an appointment per an hour. So like if they call for 2 hours, they should be producing at least one appointment out of that 2 hours worth of dialing. And then sometimes you'll get lucky, sometimes you'll get unlucky. And then the more often that you can refresh so after you buy new people to call, you'll run out very quickly. And so you just buy more. And if you don't have 50,000 people in your area or in your niche or in your target audience, it's gonna be really difficult. Probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably try to find like a slower way to have more higher quality conversations. But most of the people live in an area where you can call 50,000 people and you will still not run out of service area and serviceability. And then you can, consult your lawyer. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to call people, but just make sure you're maintaining compliance with that. The way that you sell, after I get the appointment, so I make the offer, how do you actually make the sale? So you make the sale by offering the next step. And on this, for me specifically, I'm using technology to be able to get more appointments per day. Some people will try to figure out, hey, how do we get on top of the roof? That's really dangerous. That takes a lot of time. I don't want to do that. So instead, there's 2 different softwares that I like. One of them is Imaging, IMG. So it's not like actually imaging, it's just IMG. Terrible SEO. If you guys are watching this, please change the name to no affiliation, but I like them better. They're about $300 per month. We're on one of the more expensive plans that has more scalability, more agents. The second one is EagleView. The thing I didn't like with EagleView about quotes was it was per an appointment or per draft sent out, and it was like hundreds of dollars per draft sent out or per quote sent to insurance. And I'm like, we're doing way too much scale. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to pay all this money for us to just send out more quotes. I didn't really want to do that, so that's why I went with that. Just Imaging was a little bit cheaper. Cool. So now that you know the financing, you know how much to sell it for. You know the technology. Let's just talk about the AI. So there's another option here, AI, and I'll show you a flow of what that is. There's a lot of AI call centers out there that will try to sell you something for super expensive. It'll be like 30 cents per minute of something. Terrible, terrible, awful price. Even like 15 cents per minute or 10, like 15 cents per minute, still too high. You can get it down to like 7 cents per minute, and AI is only continuing to get cheaper. So don't fall for the trap of getting, don't fall for this in like 30 cents per minute. It is not worth it, especially with how many people it can call. I like to pay somewhere around, under sub 10 cents per minute, maybe 12 cents per minute is really good, especially for AI. That's how it makes sense. And then let me show you how to manage the two. The difference between human and AI. So right here, you have the human, you actually put the leads inside of you get the leads first, and then you put the leads inside of your software. So the leads that you found, whether they're age leads, they're from Deal Machine, then you download the leads, put them inside your dialer, or using Vici Dialer, Ready Mode, either one. Then you actually get the people to make the phone calls, and the cadence, they should be working every day. And also what we found is working later in the day helps. So as an example, if you call later at night, you're gonna generally get more answers than if you call early in the morning. That's just what we found. So you find like ways to optimize this. How much talk time are they giving? What times are they calling? How many calls a day are they making? And then how many appointments are they setting? So they're on the phone, they're on the dialer, they're actually talking to people. What script do you use? Hey, would you like for roof replacement? Yes, great, let me get some info. House size, etc. If you're selling insurance, it'd be the same thing. If you're selling business to business, what kind of business do you have? How big is it? What are your goals? What are you looking to achieve? Fantastic, we can set you up with an appointment with the next person, the next step in the process. That's it. That's all that you're selling. And then obviously you can do things like appointment conversations. If you know how to manage and run a sales team, I actually made a video on that, which you can go watch, that teaches you how to manage a lot of volume in sales appointments. Now, what does it look like if you're going to do the AI? So for the AI, you're going to take the leads that you've gotten, and then you're going to put them into the AI platform. As an example, you can use something like Vappy, and the way that you put multiple leads in there is you can use it's essentially a Zapier style automation. It's called make.com. It's just a little cheaper than Zapier. And then you can upload all of the leads into the AI platform, and then you can make all the phone calls all at once. So you can call all 100 people at once. You have the phone calls, you upload the same script that you would put here with your human agents. You just put it inside of the platform. And then after you put it in the platform, then you can ask it, hey, set this up, put some appointments in there, or you set me up for some appointments, or you can do live transfers. So as an example, you will be able to give something like Vappy the ability to schedule appointments. I think it integrates with Calendly. If not, there's probably some Zapier integration. There's tons of call platforms that you can use, but like I said, just try to stick it under the 30 cents per talk time, because anyone who says oh, but ours is more efficient, no, it's not. It's not more efficient. It's just not true. There's so much out there on the market right now, that pretty much all of them sound human. So no, your platform's not, in order, if I'm paying 10 cents per minute and someone wants me to bill 30 cents per minute, their software has to be 3 times better at minimum, to be able to make that make sense and for me to purchase from them. And right now, AI models are just fairly even. There's Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT. There's all these options, but relatively the same. And then you can make the argument, oh, but this one's really good at programming. Yes, absolutely, but we're just setting appointments and just having a conversation, which pretty much every AI model can do as of right now. In which case, there's obviously new AI news coming out every single hour, so I could be wrong in 1 hour, and that would be unfortunate, but it is what it is. So you can either sell an appointment on something like Calendly or Go High Level. Those are both things that take appointments. And the thing about these appointments is, let's say that you didn't want your AI to do it. Your AI could handle the initial conversation and then do a live transfer. So you can do a hybrid models where the AI handles the initial, hey, are you interested in this thing? And then the dialer, instead of going from leads, dialer, talks, the AI is just doing the initial conversation. Would you like the thing? I can actually transfer you over to someone right now who can handle that. Yes, I'm interested. Fantastic. Transferred over to a human. And then the human has the conversation and actually sets the appointment. And so that's just ways that you can get then you, instead of having 3 agents, you could just have 1 agent do the actual appointment setting, manual booking and stuff like that. But the initial conversation is had by the AI. So the initial couple seconds is done by the AI, which saves your guys time and money. So that's how to get leads and then turn them into appointments. Like I said, the reason that I say 30 cents per minute is partially because you think about it like cash in, cash out, right? If I spend $1,000 on Facebook ads, am I going to get a sale for this? If so, then how does it make sense for me to spend more on another platform? And maybe it does, right? Maybe you've maxed out Facebook ads. Probably not the case though. I'll tell you, probably not the case. So instead, can I spend less money per every sale that I make, which is the way that I think about this? And yes, I can usually spend about half as much if I'm doing this with AI than I can if I do it with my own self. And it kind of takes a little bit to get here, right? Like when we replaced most of the people in a call center with AI. They had a call center with over 100 agents, and then like overnight they just switched to AI. But I'll tell you, it was like months of testing the AI on a very small scale, making like 100 calls a day. And then when we found out, okay, consistently this AI can outperform 90% of the agents here, we cut the bottom 90%, we replaced them with AI, and then we kept the top 10% because it still wasn't able to outperform that. So that's an example. And that guy had over 100 agents, which is insane. He was doing thousands of appointments and making a ton of money. He was making, he literally cut his cost of goods sold in half overnight just by switching over to AI. And so his profit margins just almost maybe doubled, depending on, I didn't know his profit margins, but that's how he was able to do that. So anyways, yeah. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. And if you like that video, you might like these videos as well.